Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated economist here. So I was going through my Facebook page the other day, yesterday, and I had changed my profile picture both on Facebook and YouTube and a few other places. And I'm not a big fan of Facebook, so I'm rarely on it. But I was just kind of scrolling through some of the posts that were on there, and my friend had made a post saying something about the Russian ruble is worthless when compared to the dollar. Isn't evil Putin ruining his own economy? And I got to thinking about that a little bit, and I'm like, maybe it's something bigger strategy than just the idea that he's ruining his own economy. Like a lot of people would be like, why would you step down this path if ultimately you're going to destroy everything that you have? Like, why would you just blatantly ruin your own economy? But I have to think, it's just like, what is the real reason that Russia has invaded Ukraine? Now, I don't watch the news. I don't watch the mainstream talking about it. I don't pay attention to anything that anybody has ever said about the invasion of Ukraine and what excuses they are using. I don't pay attention to that stuff. What I'm paying attention to is the reaction of the markets when it comes to the sovereign debt. How the credit default swaps were choosing not to pay out on a lot of these bonds because it was out of the scope of their obligations. I'm watching how the markets are paying attention to how these commodities coming out of Ukraine are going to be forcing people to find other directions to go to and causing the prices to move up. These are the things that I pay attention to. I don't look at the political reasonings behind it all, because ultimately it comes down to money. It's what it always comes down to. And if you have been following, say Gerald Celente, he says this a lot. Trade wars currency wars lead to trade wars, which lead to real wars. And he's not the only one who says that. Lots of people do. And you can see it taking place. I mean, since the quantitative easing programs fired up back in 2008, it has been nonstop currency wars taking place. And although they're not talked about a lot, currency wars are very much alive and well. And there is no reason to think that they are not being fought right now. But these currency wars, they lead into trade wars, which eventually leads into real wars. And so we experience plenty of trade wars with tariffs and sanctions and all kinds of stuff being put on all these countries, and including the United States. China and the United States were putting tariffs on everything under the sun on each other, trying to push back on the unfair trade advantages that the other ones were claiming they had. Who knows? Ultimately, the trade wars will eventually lead into real wars. And now we're starting to see that take place over in Ukraine. I mean, you think about it. Russia is invading Ukraine very much, at least in my opinion. This is what it's going to go down to. I mean, I don't, the truth may be different, but what I'm seeing is that there's very little difference in what Russia is doing to Ukraine that the United States did to Iraq. Now, I mean, a lot of people might see that differently. They might think about it differently. They may call me evil for saying this. But at the end of the day, the United States ultimately wanted Iraq to make sure that that oil was sold in U.S. dollars. That was it. That was the ultimate goal. The idea of spreading democracy or whatever, yeah, okay, that's a great excuse. But when it comes down to it, it was about trading oil in U.S. dollars. So when it comes to Russia invading Ukraine, well, what does Russia want? They want Ukraine's resources. And they don't even really want the resources. They could probably care less about actually having the resources. Russia is full of resources. What they want is Ukraine to make sure that whatever it is that they're doing, that they do it in Russian rubles. To make sure that all the exports are done in rubles. And so even if you go and you destroy your currency right now, I don't think it really matters, considering that most central banks around the world are this close to pushing out their own central bank digital currencies. Like, all of them are working on it, including the United States. China already has central bank digital currency in use right now. I mean, sure, it's still part of a beta program, but it is growing, and it's growing big. It's growing, well, I shouldn't say big, it's growing bigger, is what I should say. And so now, if you take a nation and you completely destroy them, destroy everything about it. I mean, the people are broke, the businesses are broke, the industries are broke, everything is broken down, like not functioning anymore. And then the currency itself just becomes worthless. Then the government can step in and say, hey, things are pretty bad, everything is broken, but we got the solution. We got this central bank digital currency. And so you bring in all your rubles, and you bring in all your worthless currencies, and you bring in everything that you got, and we'll start exchanging it for central bank digital currencies. And China, you're going to want some of these forestry products and some of the oil products and stuff like that that's coming out of Ukraine. You'd be doing business with the central bank digital currency, wouldn't you? I mean, think about it. CBDCs are so easy to swap back and forth. It wouldn't be anything to reestablish all the trade inside of one particular central bank digital currency, force everybody who wants to do trade with you to use your central bank digital currency. You see what's kind of happening here? Like, this is, to me, probably the bigger issue that's coming out of that particular area, is that Russia wants Ukraine, they want their resources, they want their facilities, they want everything about it, but they don't necessarily want it. They just want them to do it in the Russian currency. And that'll put a demand for that Russian currency that is beyond what they have already without Ukraine. You see what's happened there? Like, it's the same thing that took place in Iraq. Like, Iraq was pumping out oil. Saddam did not like the United States. He wanted to start doing the oil deals in euros, and we were not having it. We were not going to have that happen at all. So we went in there, we busted it up, busted their government up, busted everything about it, and then reestablished all the trade in US dollars. This is how it goes down every single time. I mean, not every single time. There's always different changes to it, but this is how nations do it. I mean, they will go in there and take all the natural resources and reestablish it for themselves. That's the whole point of going to war. I mean, the idea of spreading democracy, no. It's not about spreading democracy. It's about making sure that they do business in your dollars or in your currency. I guess I'll leave it at that. Uneducated economist. You guys let me know.